The following disclaimer is for those in California only. Pursuant to California Assembly Bill 2571, it is illegal for the advertisement and or marketing of any firearm-related products and or programs in a manner that is designed, intended, or reasonably appears to be attractive to minors. As such, if you are currently in California, this program is restricted to only those that are over 18. Please turn this program off now if you are in California and under 18. Now, on to the program. Hello and welcome to the centertenspodcast. Centertens is a podcast that discusses small bore and precision air rifle from junior shooting sports on up to NCAA collegiate and Olympic competition. And now here's your host, Adam Pearson. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Centertens. Hope everybody's New Year is going well. Looks like USA Shooting had a very good weekend this past weekend as the Part 3 for the Olympic trials was held down in Anniston. So we're going to go over the totals for the days and who won in the finals. So on day 1, for the men's, the top 8 shooters, we had Ryland Kissel with a 630.1, Ivan Rowe with a 628.2, Brandon Muskie with a 628.1, Lucas Kaczynski with a 627.1, Timothy Sherry with a 626.5, Chance Cover with a 625.8, Gavin Barnick with a 625.1, and Peter Fiore with a 624.0. And right on the bubble in 9th and 10th, we had Jared Eddy with a 623 even and Levi Clark with a 622.8. Then moving on to day 2, we had some moving around on the top 8. Ryland Kissel remained in first with a 630.4. Peter Fiore jumped up to second for day 2 with a 627.4. Levi Clark was in third place on day 2 with a 626 even. Then we had a 3-way tie at 624.9. We had Ivan Rowe, Timothy Sherry, and Jared Eddy, again all with 624.9s. Gavin Barnick with a 624 even, and Lucas Kaczynski had a 623.4. Chance Cover and Brandon Muskie stumbled a little bit on day 2. Chance shot a 620 even, and Brandon Muskie shot a 608.9. So once we combine the day 2 totals, in first place was Ryland Kissel with a 1260.5. Ivan Rowe was in second with a 1253.1. Third was Timothy Sherry with a 1251.7. Peter Fiore was in fourth with a 1251.4. Lucas Kaczynski was in 5th with a 1250.5. Gavin Barnick 6th with a 1249.1. Levi Clark was 7th with a 1248.8. Jared Eddy squeaked in 8th with a 1247.9. So those were the 8 that went into finals. Once finals were complete, Ivan Rowe was in 3rd with a 228.1. Peter Fiore scored 2nd with a 249.1. And Lucas Kaczynski won first place with a 251.3. Now if we move on to the women's, day 1, Mary Tucker was in first with a 631.6. Allison Weiss second was a 632.8. Then we had Jeannie Haverhill with a 629.5. Panaya D'Souza with a 629.3. Sagan Madalena with a 628.8. Jenny Thrasher had a 627.7. Sarah Beard with a 627.5. And Elizabeth Marsh with a 626.7. Just under the top 8, we had Elizabeth Probst at 9th with a 625.9. And Angeline Henry at 10th with a 625.4. And then when we went on to day 2, the top scorers for that day, again, Mary Tucker with a 631.7. Sagan Madalena with a 633.2. Katie Zahn jumped into the top 8 with a 628.8. Allison Weitz with a 628.3. Gabriella Zeich also moved into the top 8 with a 627.8. Jeannie Haverhill with a 627.5. Gracie Din jumped in with a 626.9. And Jenny Thrasher rounded it out with a 625.8. And then once we combined the two scores for the 2-day totals, we found Mary Tucker in first with a 1263.3, Sagan Madalena in second with a 1262.0, Allison Whites with 1261.1, Jeannie Haverhill was in fourth with a 1257 even. Then we found Panaya D'Souza in fifth with a 1254.8, Jenny Thrasher in sixth with a 1253.5, Katie Zahn in seventh with a 1251.6, and Sarah Beard in eighth with a 1251.4. So those were the top 8 moving on to finals. And once finals were completed, we saw Jenny Haverhill in third with a 228.1. Katie Zahn ended up second with a 250.1. And Mary Tucker came in first with a 252.5. So those were the winners of the Olympic Trials Part 3. So with the trials complete, the first 3 shooters that were actually named to the Olympic team to compete in Paris was Sagan Madalena to compete in the 10-meter air rifle for women's, Mary Tucker to also compete in 10-meter air rifle for women's, and Ivan Rowe in the men's 10-meter air rifle. So this weekend starts the spring season for the NCAA competition. We'll see several matches going on both Saturday, Sunday, and actually one on Monday. So on Saturday, we will see the Citadel mixed team and Citadel women's against Jacksonville State at Jacksonville. Then we'll see Wofford versus Alabama Birmingham, Army versus Kentucky, and Murray State versus Georgia Southern. And then on Sunday, we'll see UT Martin against Georgia Southern, Kentucky against Nebraska, and then we'll see Air Force, Ohio State, and TCU all competing at TCU. And then on Monday, we'll see another match at TCU of just Ohio State and TCU. So we look forward to watching those competitions this weekend as those teams wind down their season, looking forward to the NCAA championships. So that'll be it for this week. And as we say every week, the most important shot is the one that is in front of you. Thank you for listening to Season 1 of Center Tens. If you like the show, please leave a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. This helps out tremendously. Give us a follow on Instagram and Facebook at Center Tens. Center Tens can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Buzzsprout, Pocket Cast, and at centertens.com. Hope you join us for our next episode.